right, hello everybody. It's 7 o'clock. We're going to get the East Lyme Inland Wetlands Agency regular meeting as of Tuesday, September 6th started. So we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so I'll go through quickly and introduce everybody. We have Phyllis Berger, Don Fiminster, I'm Kristen Chantrell, Leonard Salter. We have Sam Sims. Gary Gaishel is our wetlands agent. We have Sue Sprang, the recording agent for tonight. Should we sit another? We have two alternates. I see we have Diane, right? Diane, do you want to come see for our meeting today? And then Carlo is our other alternate today. And I don't see Nancy.
Yeah, she wasn't going to be.
Okay. All right. So we're going to start off with public delegations. Public delegations is the time when members of the public are invited to speak to the commission about certain matters, issues, or concerns related to approved wetland permits, and in-house proposals or general topics of discussion are open to comment. Agenda items, referrals, applications subject to a decision by the commission, a public hearing, or in litigation may not be discussed. The members of the commission will not directly answer questions or make comment during delegations. So we have anyone here today from the public that would like to speak today about something not on our agenda? No? Okay. No public hearings. Next, acceptance of minutes from June 7th, 2022, our regular meeting. Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
A second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? I didn't see any hands. Okay. Okay. So then moving on to ex officio reports.
Hi. I'll just come up here just when I got mushed here. Oh, you're fine. You're fine. No worries. Ann Chichello from Board of Selectmen is ex officio. There wasn't a lot that happened this summer. We only had a few meetings. The big issue, Deep did come to talk about the coyotes and other wildlife that have been kind of plaguing people, especially down in the Niantic area. So that was one issue that was raised. Something else that was brought up, the Board of Selectmen, was they're going to trial some compacting trash containers and see how that works down in downtown Niantic to start them off there. I think they're in another town, so they're going to see what happens there first and then try to get some for here. Does anybody have any questions? There wasn't really a lot in their meetings and stuff this summer, to be honest with you. No?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann.
Sure.
All right, moving right to new business. Application of Jack Belowich, Atlantis Management Group applicant owner for the redevelopment of 190, 196, and 202 Flanders Road to include a new 4,200 square foot convenience store and related appurtenances. East Lyme Assessors Map 26.3, lots 14, 15, and 16.
Hi everyone, Rob Avina. I'm here on behalf of the applicant from Sussman Shapiro Law Firm in London. I think we saw some of you out at the site walk on Saturday. I'm here on behalf of my client, Atlantis Management Group, and Jack Belowitz is their director of construction and management. He unfortunately had some scheduled time, so he wasn't able to be here tonight. So I'm speaking on his behalf. Right behind you, as we quickly, I'm just going to give you a background before I introduce Jeff Dewey, who's going to go through the plans with you. But let me just give you some background. As we mentioned when we were out there Saturday, you can sort of see the layout. You've got the Citgo gas station on a separate parcel that's kind of to the right in the brown. And in the center is what we're going to discuss in a minute. And to the left is the existing retail that's also there. Some of you might be familiar with that. That's got the breakfast nook in it and a bunch of other service industry businesses. Essentially, as the assessor's maps indicate, there are really three separate parcels. My client has recently acquired the two that to the left and have been long-term owners of the Citgo station, the one that's facing everybody to the right. The particular plan that we're presenting tonight is sort of the grayish convenience store rectangular area that's in the middle lot. Again, it shows up as a independent lot within the town records in the commercial zone, and we're proposing to put the commercial convenience store on that lot. The effects are that as far as the gas station, we don't intend to have any impact on the gas station. We understand it's in the aquifer zone. We understand that it's in existing regulated use within the aquifer zone. We don't plan anything, any activity there except for two things. One is the small kiosk that's in the back of the gas station. If you're familiar with it, it's where you go in to grab your milk or pay cash for your gas. That's being proposed to be removed, so that those services will be accommodated over to the left in the center convenience store. So we'll be actually removing that improvement from the property. The other activity would just be that the engineers have now gotten involved and realized that that particular parcel, there's some drainage that comes over and goes on to the adjoining parcel where we're planning the convenience store. That obviously has to be dealt with. So Jeff will go through with you that a portion of that drainage will go into the brand new system that we're proposing to retain the drainage of our site, and will accept and improve some of the drainage that's coming off from the gas station site. That's the only things that are really affecting the existing two premises, both to our right and our left. There obviously will be some site work done that will accommodate the areas, and we'll go over those with you as far as improvements to the two other existing businesses. But essentially the only structural improvement is that center convenience store. To the rear, as we stood there on Saturday, I would say we were in that light green area. Jeff will go over with you that in fact the ownership of the parcel goes way back to the Patagonia River, which we were, I tried to look back there, but obviously it's heavily brush covered. We didn't get anywhere near that. So then the wetland is marked on the map. The extent of the wetland is the blue flags, and then you come even further toward us, and we start getting into the 300-foot jurisdiction of the commission, which in this case comes right on out, I believe, about the center of Flanders Road. So we are certainly within the regulated area, but we have no activity whatsoever planned for the wetlands and obviously the river itself. And as we discussed on Saturday, there will be one drainage that Jeff will go over, the pipe that will actually have the retention devices on it and some cleaning devices, and that will ultimately go down in that direction to the normal flow of the drainage toward the back, again emptying prior to the actual wetland demarcation, and then doing a street flow or slope flow from there. So that is sort of the basic premise of why we're here, is we do understand your jurisdictional requirements of the 300 feet, and we're here to obviously comply with that and do any suggestions you might have. So I'm going to have Jeff come up and work a little bit with this plan, and then show you another plan also.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Dewey. I'm with BL Companies. We designed a site plan for this project. And thank you, Gary, for your help getting set up. This is so much better than pointing to a plan on a mounted board that no one can read but me. As you can see, from if you look at the plan, we have up here roughly on the outside of the dark blue is the Patagonia River. There's a nice big green buffer area for the river, and then the wetland edge here highlighted in blue. As mentioned, we are within the 300-foot regulated area, so that's a lot of the reason we're here. The existing site, again, as discussed, as you can see, there's a lot of paved areas. The gray represents pavement and gravel areas, dark brown represents roof areas, and the light tan represents concrete areas. So there's a good amount of impervious areas on this site, good amount of nice area of green here, fairly gentle sloping through here. We've noted some, just for information purposes, roughly the kiosk is 106 feet from the wetland edge. The existing canopy around 124 feet. And down here, the existing one-story building that has a few retail and restaurant uses is only 30 feet from the wetlands. So they're pretty close to the wetlands. Currently, the site, there's very little formal drainage on the site. This represents right here, kind of almost splitting the two parcels, is an existing DOT drainage outfall right here. However, the site itself all drains overland towards the wetlands, to the west into the wetlands. Over here, the existing gas station, a good portion of it, roughly half, drains off the site in a similar fashion overland to the wetlands. There is one catch basin over in the northwest corner. This has a 12-inch RCP outlet. Our surveyors were not able to locate the actual discharge point due to how much growth and stuff was in the area, in the wooded area. They did spend some time searching and they never found it. However, this only takes a small area here, and it's certain by the contouring and just logistics, wherever this outlets, it does eventually drain into the Patagonia River. So what we are proposing is this plan here. Similarly, the existing building here with the restaurant over to the south remains the same, as does its parking lot. We're proposing a new structure here that's 4,200 square feet. The removal of the kiosk over here and remaining, keeping the canopy and the pumps as well as the concrete fill area here in place. Keeping the access driveways about the same. Interesting thing about this project, certainly whenever we go to develop a site, we go to improve the site. And I know this isn't wetlands related, but it was something that had me scratching my head for a while. For the life of me, I can't figure out how a fuel truck gets in and out of this existing site. I would love to see it because I couldn't imagine how it happens. So we tried to keep that in mind to allow a fuel truck to get in and out, and we designed everything with the turning radii appropriately so there'll not be a truck backing in and out of Route 161 to deliver fuel. We're going to disconnect this catch basin over here from this 12-inch pipe that discharges out in no man's land, and we're going to tie it into our drainage system, and we will bring everything into these, they're storm scepters. They're basically subsurface. I'm sure you've seen them a bunch of times. Subsurface chambers that they promote detention as well as some infiltration depending on the soil properties. And we also have a hydrodynamic separator at this catch basin here, which the idea is that most of your pollutants, which I'm sure you've heard this story too, most of your pollutants are in your first flush, and these hydrodynamic separators are designed such that they'll treat the first flush, the water quality flow, and bypass the larger storms and direct it right into detention. The roof area for the new building, the 4,200 square feet, is designed to not be part of the detention system, as ideally roof areas are considered cleaner water. However, the canopy and the pad over here and this whole area of the existing pavement will be collected and directed into the system, so it will be treated as well as detained in the detention system. And we propose a discharge point right here. The grades in this area, it's roughly in here, are fairly level and start to steepen up, so we've designed a riprap apron, ideally to dissipate any potentially erosive velocities and what have you at the outlet. It's a really small area, so there's very minor flows going in and out of the system. Basically, what we're proposing is a minor increase in overall impervious area. The existing conditions represent around 48,800 square feet. What we're proposing is approximately a total of 54,180 square feet, or roughly an 11% increase in impervious area for the final development. Some of our improvements that include not only improving the traffic flow of the site, certainly adding a lot of landscaping. We have landscape plans associated with it, which there's very minimal landscaping, I'm sure, as you know, today. But also the stormwater will be greatly improved, because currently there is no stormwater quality management or quantity management. We tried to resize this system to get as close to existing conditions as we could. We didn't want to have a huge reduction in flow, but certainly we do want to reduce the flow overall as opposed to have it be exactly as is. So as sized, the current system will reduce the peak flow rates around 20%. I have the numbers if you would actually like to see the numbers, but we assess the storm events from the 2-year, 10-year, 25, and 100-year. And each one of the storms were right around 20%. Some were a little over, some were a little under. And we're also planning on, over in the existing, to the south, we're going to catch as much as we can of this existing parking area and direct it into our detention system. So this area now that's up in the front of the Village Cafe and Wild Birds Unlimited up here, that currently drains towards the back of the property, she flows over the, well, there is no curb line, but over the edge of pavement, and then goes right to the Patagonic River overland, will be directed into our system, so it'll have water quality treatment in the HDS system, as well as some detention in the detention system. Overall, we think that this will be an improvement for the site and the facility, and hopefully for the town, for the aesthetics as well, with the landscaping we're proposing. And that's really all I have as far as my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Gary, are we currently determining if it goes to public hearing or not?
Correct. It's remain on the agenda for 15 days before the commission can render a decision. Should there be a petition for a public hearing, as well as we can make a determination whether or not I think it needs a public hearing. That's up to you. If you need further guidance, I can point you to regulations. Basically, if it looks like there's a likelihood of a significant impact to the wetlands, that would be one reason to hold a public hearing. The other would be that it's in the public interest. Or not. Again, if you choose not to hold a public hearing, we have to wait 15 days anyway to see if there's a petition.
I do have a question.
That, I will let you know that staff is still reviewing it. Town engineer is reviewing the stormwater report, so we're still waiting on comments back from staff.
Okay, so I have a question. I'm looking
Sure.
at your map up there. I'm trying to see where the water flow from the existing building, you said it's going to be tied into the new system that you have. Like right now, the water just runs back into the river.
Correct.
Where are you going to put something? I don't see
Oh,
like
I'm sorry.
pipes or something like that where it's going to be running into the new system.
Okay, we show the catch basin here and here. And unfortunately, I apologize, I can open up the plan that shows the grading. So basically, the front of this building kind of sheet flows off to the northwest. And then right where, so let me go, if we look at the existing, so you can see right here, this water is flowing out this way and then coming like this. And then once you start to get to here where this small retaining wall is, now it's just going right down the driveway.
Right.
So what we're proposing with these catch basins is between this one and more this one is the water as it's going this way will be collecting it. So water that's down here near the retaining wall, we aren't able to pick up because the elevation is too low to be able to get it into our detention system. So we tried to grab as much as we could.
I have a question on the wetlands, the soil report. It only indicates lots 202 and 196.
Correct, those are the actual lots of the proposal. The existing building and its parking lot really wasn't part of the original project, but it did make sense to include them as far as collecting as much drainage from them as we could.
Okay, so 190 is not part of.
Correct.
Okay, and then also the application is not signed.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I apologize for that.
I went online and I printed it out, so I'm guessing that it all goes together, but there's no signature.
Yeah, I have my authorization in the file, so I can sign as agent for the applicant. I can do that at the end of the meeting. Sorry about that.
It's not the first time that's happened.
So then my other question is, as far as the invasives, would you consider removing some of the invasives in the back and perhaps planting some native trees? You've got dead trees back there that
Right.
could be taken down, and a couple native trees could be planted. You've got knotweed that's also on the property that could be removed.
But certainly, by all means, I see no reason why we wouldn't be all for removing some of the invasives.
And then maybe consider some water gardens and some pervious, the cement pavers in the back. So we break up the flow.
Certainly, we could, if there's specifically if there's areas you are considering would be great. Rain gardens, we certainly could incorporate a couple of rain garden type features. There's not a lot of watershed to feed them, because really to me it seems like the most logical place would be in front of the building, adjacent to Route 161, or we could do it on the back of the curb in the rear. I mean, certainly to have a rain garden, the point is to get enough water to it to feed it, and feed the plantings that are in it. Certainly, by all means, we'll work with our wetland scientist and come up with a scheme.
Remove some of the trees and add some natives.
I guess my question would be, could you take the outlet and bring it back closer to the paved area and create a detention ring,
Yeah, no,
tile swell there?
unfortunately, it's the elevation of our subsurface detention system. I could take a look and see if we can pull it back some, because obviously it'd be raising it higher at the same time. So we can try and maybe we can grade something in there and have almost like not a swale, so to speak, but like a level swale that we could plant as a rain garden along near where the outlet is. That would make a lot of sense.
Is there any way, there's a lot of impervious area, or there will be, and is there any way that you can get some of that water into the town sewer system? I know it's a odd property.
Yes, that would be combined sewer, so that's, you don't put drain system into storm, into sanitary.
Yeah.
You don't mix the two,
Well,
unfortunately.
okay, then the drain system.
I did have a question. So the proposed 4,200 square foot building, where's the roof? You said the roof runoff wasn't being treated or retained? Where's that?
That's actually, it's bypassing, so I'll zoom in a little bit. So right here and here is where we're tying in the roof leaders. As it's considered cleaner water, we just tied it right into the outlet system and not planning to detain it at all.
Right, so it's not sheet flow, that goes in there.
Right, correct.
Do you know how old the gas tanks are?
That, unfortunately, I do not have any information on. I certainly can get it for you.
I'd also be interested in the material that they're made of and anticipated service life, and any testing to confirm they are not leaking prior to commencing construction. That would be useful.
That makes a lot of sense.
I also have a question about the building that's that you're planning on taking down. So there's a pretty steep, not steep, but relatively steep decline between the building and the wetlands, right?
Back in here in the back of the building?
Yeah. So, like, in the process of the removal of that building, what countermeasures are you going to make to make sure, like, no debris or dust or anything falls, goes into either the brush area or the wetlands?
Basically, we were planning on just a standard protocol for construction or destruction, actually. Considering its demolition, certainly all the erosion control measures would be in place. The first thing they will have to do is have a material check what's in there to make sure that there's no hazardous materials in the existing building materials before it's even demoed. That would be step one. And once it's determined to be all clean materials, then it can be taken down. We could add some notes to include for dust control and what have you during demolition, if that would make sense. It's such a small building, it's probably going to go down real fast and probably only take a couple dumpsters to be removed from the site, but certainly any type of protocols we can add to the plans at the commission's request, by all means, we're game.
Do you show that proposal, Jeff, and what ends up when that's taken out, how it goes? Okay. So we are proposing then that we will be doing the landscaping and the elevations behind post-construction.
Okay.
So that has to be regulated.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
It would be useful if we brought up the document entitled Land Development Plans for Proposed Retail Store if you have access on that machine. Starting with sheet 8 of 18, the sediment and erosion control notes. Zooming in on the third paragraph from the top left, the contingency erosion plan. The last sentence of that paragraph refers to conditions that are encountered beyond what would normally be anticipated. Who determines that, and what are the thresholds?
Well, it could be determined by a number of people. It could be the contractor in the field that runs into something. Just for example, I'm not saying it's possible, there may be a tank out there, because this is obviously an old gas station.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's an old propane tank or something in the back that nobody knew of.
Mm-hmm.
So that obviously, and the contractor would be the one to find it. So he would be the one to alert the engineer, the architect, or who, what have you, and come up with a contingency plan accordingly. Could be the site inspector from the town finds that the said fence behind the building is falling down or it's stacked up with sediment and needs to be addressed. So there's...
Okay. There's not a designated referee. It's anyone who finds something unusual could report it and get it taken care of. Okay, that's
correct.
That makes sense. Moving down, periodic inspections are required. There's mention of after a certain amount of rainfall or once a week that things get inspected. Again, is that a team effort? Anyone can throw the flag?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a Connecticut DEP requirement for, because we're gonna, obviously we gotta get a general permit for discharge of waters from a construction site. And that's a standard of theirs, is the ½ inch of rain or once a week inspection.
Right. But who inspects is not specified deliberately, so that anyone with the eye to find the discrepancy can report it and get it taken care of. Is that correct?
Similar to other applications that we've had, the contractor designated one individual just to file stormwater reports to the town on a weekly basis.
Jack Bellowitz is responsible to report.
So
Mhm.
certainly the commission could require them to do that weekly.
Mhm.
Or usually it's at a rain event.
Mhm.
Report that's given, or at least written up. Larger projects, I will receive those reports.
Okay, understood. There is a regular process for taking care of this. There are logs that are taken to make sure that, as written, these notes are
Yeah, certainly,
implemented.
If the commission is certainly concerned, I would suggest making that a condition of, if the commission is going to go forward and approve the application.
Mhm. Okay. On note 4 of the, let's see, topsoil, rough grading operations, sediment control notes. There's mention, sediment and erosion control notes in the lower right. Note 4. Let's see, again, we're talking about the quarter-inch rain event. It mentions trained and experienced personnel, qualified personnel, trained and experienced in sediment and erosion control to ascertain and perform a function. What qualified to what?
There's a couple different levels. Connecticut licensed professional engineer is considered certified. This is basically another Connecticut DEP requirement.
Mm-hmm.
You can be certified as an erosion control agent.
Mm-hmm.
Quite frankly, I'm not sure of the protocol to be certified, but I know there are such people that have that certification in hand. Typically, town staff has the authority as well. Sometimes, if there's an independent erosion control site reviewer assigned to the project, they have to be qualified accordingly.
Would that be the qualified to the certification mentioned previously?
Yes, for the erosion control.
Okay.
Correct.
And I think there's a subcontractor that's on the project that is qualified and will perform those functions.
Typically,
Yeah.
there is.
There is
Mhm.
such a
Most
entity
contractors, yes.
Okay.
If I was a contractor, I would. You know,
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't
instead
wanna
of hiring someone else out. You know.
Sam's terrible. I wouldn't want to make him mad. And then on the site work general notes, I think that's page 13 of the document. Let's see, note 36 mentions an erosion control bond. And that's just a term I hadn't heard before. And how it applies to this project, where it comes from, if there's any.
So typically, the agency was interested in holding a bond for their erosion sedimentation controls, meaning if the developer fails to maintain the controls, if the site goes awry, the town would have the right to use the bond money to install controls and stabilize the site.
Ah, okay.
So usually that amount is determined between the applicant's engineer and the town engineer, and they'll agree upon a reasonable amount, and typically that's submitted as part of the record. Once it's finished, as I said, staff is still reviewing the application. Certainly if there's something you want the applicant to post, again, that would be a condition of approval of the application.
Okay. All my questions are answered. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Do we have any other questions? All right, all great questions today. So our job today is to determine if this warrants a public hearing or not. So would someone like to make a motion one way or the other?
I can make a motion. I feel that it should go for a public hearing.
Do we have to state if it's because of public? Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Can we take a vote discussion? Do we have to specify if it's because of a public interest or?
Likely to have a significant impact.
or the significant impact,
Both.
or both? Do we have to specify, or we can just
I think
say?
it would be good to stay on the record. Why?
Mhm. Do we? Either of you guys?
Rephrase it?
Hmm?
Do you want me to rephrase?
Sure.
Let's see. Because of a significant wetlands issue and public interest, I feel it should go to a public hearing.
Okay, thanks, Phyllis. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Can I also comment? We should
Unanimous.
be, this will be, I think, our first public hearing, so we need the signage in front of the property, just as a reminder,
Yes,
because we haven't done it.
correct, yeah. The change that we did make with our regulations. So, yeah, we will send correspondence to the applicant, notifying them that when the date, that the public hearing is scheduled, and they'll use that to approve the sign.
Thank you. The signer.
And when would we like to plan the public hearing now, or do we want to wait till town staff has completed their?
I would believe the next regular scheduled meeting would be sufficient to hold that.
Mhm.
Because as I said, staff is in the process of reviewing it. We should be able to get comments back and actually have a back and forth with staff and the engineers. And hopefully by the next meeting, actually we've had it buttoned up to the point where it's ready for a decision.
Okay.
Ideally.
Yep.
So I think we can get there.
Okay. First Tuesday of October. Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Who's in
Unanimous. All right. Next on our new business, we have Diane McAndrews, the condition of Little Indian Pond, Crescent Beach, Niantic.
I'm Diane McAndrews. I live at Crab Lane in Crescent Beach, and I'm here tonight to talk about the deteriorating condition of Indian Pond. Over the past 5 years, I'd say it's gotten very stagnant. The condition is worse and worse, and it's the Phragmites and the thick layer of algae is just really awful. And it's probably due to several things. Probably one of them is the runoff of nutrient-rich soils, and then the other thing might be the T-shaped efflux pipe that was installed. I don't know how many. These are pictures of the drainage of the pipe, and this is a picture of the pond. It doesn't. We haven't had any rain all summer, but still, I'm wondering if it is taking too much water out of the pond and lowering it, and therefore making the whole condition even worse with the oxygen level. And there's not enough water. The temperature of the water must be very hot. I've walked past there a lot of times, and it's dirty water. It smells sometimes, not all the time, and it's hot. It's warm water, so it's. I think the purpose of it was to drain the pond if we had a hurricane or something, and then it wouldn't flood the street. But I'm wondering if the pipe is working properly, and possibly it's adding to the other problems with it. The other issue is it really is draining right into where people swim, and it's really looks like it could be kind of a health issue, possibly. I don't know. So that's one thing. I mean, it's the health of the swimming area. It's also the pond itself looks like it's a potential huge breeding ground for mosquitoes because it's so still, it's so stagnant, and I'm here tonight hoping that we can find some solutions and some help to figure out what can be done that would be within the purview of the inland wetlands, so that whatever we do is sanctioned, and we can work together with our town and the Crescent Beach Association to make it better, not only for us, but also for all of the people that are coming to town now. We have lots of concerts in the summer, and we have people coming and going to the parking lot and listening to music, and then they look and see the blight. It's really an aesthetic thing and also a health thing. So I know there's a couple of solutions that have been done on other ponds, and in fact there's other ponds within Niantic that don't have this issue at all. So like Dodge Pond is one, it's very clear, and there's a Gorton Pond, I think, and I don't know what the difference is. I mean, this pond's smaller, of course, but it gets worse every year, so something is happening. I know herbicides, there's many herbicides that are approved by the DEEP. You could put an aerator in there that requires electric or solar. That could be another issue. And the other thing I wanted to bring up tonight to see whether it would be sanctioned would be the grass carp. They eat vegetation, and they're more cost effective than than using a herbicide. I've read that 5 fish can take care of an acre if it's a moderate amount of vegetation, and that they could live in low oxygen levels, brackish water, and they're also very resistant to agricultural runoff, which is a very good thing. So I'm hoping that maybe we can work together with the inland wetlands and get your blessing to go forth and try to do some more things within the town that's sanctioned, or your expertise as to how we should approach the issue, because it is getting worse, and it's a health issue and also aesthetics, but potentially with the mosquitoes, many of them do very nicely in brackish water, and I think we've been lucky so far with that problem. But then the other thing, draining into the beach swimming area, seems to be not a good thing either. So that's what I wanted to let you know about and see if we could figure out something to do to help.
Yeah, I've noticed it's been deteriorating over years too, and it's Greg. So are you a property owner of there's 3?
Not of the pond.
Okay. The pond is privately owned.
Does it have exchange with the ocean? Does it have free open exchange with the ocean? Yeah, it does. Then it's not, we can't do anything. Well, can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, my name's Joe Casey. I live next to the pond also. And,
Can I have your address?
yes, 17 Ocean Avenue, Niantic, Connecticut.
Thank you.
Same issues happen over at the Indian Pond in Adelon and Oak Grove. And many years ago, DEP put in the pipes that Diana's talking about in both ponds to flush, and it had a diaphragm that would allow the tide to come in and out. And I think it's our feeling that those systems were working fairly well when they were initially installed, and it might need some maintenance to help them function properly. Some people remember when that Indian Pond between Oak Grove and Adelon flowed directly to and fro the ocean and the bay, and then until Adelon Heights came in, and one winter they just kind of covered it all up, put rocks in there, and made it took away that coastal pond, fresh water, salt water, where all the blue crabs and fish used to hang out. So Little Indian Pond at Crescent Beach, is a really beautiful resource for the neighborhood and for people walking by and enjoying nature. And I'm sure it was a natural pool many years ago also, just like the one at Anawan at the bigger Indian Pond. So what we're looking to see is could we get someone from the Inland Wetlands Commission or to come and meet with us and take a look at it.
to help introduce us to Department of DEEP. So not only the one in Crescent Beach, but we are a regional area. We are in East Lyme, and the one over that one. And if you take a drive by there, also you can see that orange algae on top of it also. And so maybe there's a maintenance thing that DEP may or may not know about after it was installed so many years ago. That would help. The property owners, we've talked to them. Most of them are out of town this time of year, but they are willing to participate. They're willing to donate time, money, effort to assist with the effort to bring the pond into a more balanced ecological system that it used to be. So we're just looking to see if there could be some type of field walkthrough and some discussion. We don't want to do anything that would be adversely affected or would cause some disturbance in rules and regulations. We could voluntarily, I guess, put a solar powered aerator out there in this discussion with some of the property owners to fund that themselves. But then again, we kind of want to talk to some other people about it.
So, this is Greg McIntyre. If I may, I live in Oak Grove Beach, and we do have that problem. We have a gentleman named Chris Yale who has taken on that responsibility. He actually got deep to our pond this spring.
Oh, wow.
To excavate both ends of the pipe, lift the weir out so the water can flow back and forth. In my estimation, that made things worse, but nonetheless, it was something. He has in-depth knowledge of all the possibilities and contractors you can call, what to do. If you give me your email address, I'll be happy to put you in contact.
Well, thank you very, very much. Appreciate it.
So if I may, in terms of the Indian Pond and Adelon, I was just by there the other day and I couldn't find the outlet to the pipes, so I think it might be buried again. So that could be a problem that's happening, is that those pipes continuously get buried with large storm surge and a maintenance issue that DEEP has to maintain there. On the Crescent Beach Pond, the town did install a pipe several years ago, it's about 5. We kept an open T at the end. We ran a pipe perpendicular to the outlet pipe, basically to keep sand from clogging that pipe. That has kept that pipe open and functioning. So at low tide, the pond drains, and once that water level gets below the outlet elevation of the pipe, water can no longer flow. So particularly in drought, that pond just dries up a couple of feet. Water's going to get warm, and the conditions are right for an elbow. As far as I think the town is concerned, under Section 4 of our regulation, there are activities that are exempt, which are anything that are conservation related. So, from that perspective, I think the town, the agency, would be willing to work with the association and the neighborhood to come to some sort of a solution for the pond. I don't think that's going to be an issue so much as far as permitting goes. Actually, what to do, that's going to be take some heavy lifting, I think. We can certainly treat the pond, we can talk to the legislature, the pond can be treated for mosquito breeding, they can drop tabs in it. As far as treating it with herbicide, that's a solution. I know this commission has been back and forth, depending on makeup.
Yeah, it is flowing into a swimming area.
Regarding herbicides. So,
kind of.
But it may be a solution. Obviously, I think if we, as you said, maybe make an introduction with DEP. My opinion would be it might be worth talking with Kevin, the first selectman, and getting that introduction made. And maybe with DEEP and some of the financial resources there, we could do something. As it was noted, it is owned by 3 private landowners, so DEEP may not be able to put any money toward it, but they certainly could at least assist in guiding us with the proper thing to do to help restore the health of that pond. I think that's probably the best way to go. I'm not a fisheries biologist. I'm a wetland agent, So it is a little beyond my own expertise, so I would defer to DEP.
Karen Williams, Wetlands. With regards to the health of the pond, are there regulations for cutting the Phragmites and disposing of them?
There are no specific regulations regarding the invasive removal of Phragmites. The Adabos have associated with the permit that was issued for their house. In it, in I guess the minutes with that permit, it was approved that they could go in and clear them. Now, my understanding is Mr. Adabo will periodically leave them in the pond.
Oh, and as far as I saw,
That needs to really come out. And unfortunately, just cutting them every year does not stop them. It really just perpetuates the problem. It exacerbates it because they just get hardier and hardier. So unless he's treating them with an herbicide after he cuts them, and again, when he cuts them, the time of year, all of that matters. So we probably should take a look at that and get them on board. I do know them from town, they live in town hall, so I can reach out to them and the three landowners along with the association, and maybe we can sit down and come up to a better solution than the way that's being managed.
And in regards to that too, are there regulations on the chemicals that they can use around, that any of the property owners can use around the pond?
There's no specific regulation. I mean, the regulation would be a regulated activity by definition. To police that is almost near impossible. To police what individual homeowners are applying on their lawns or their plants or on their foundations. As far as applying herbicide to the pond itself, that's a regulated activity that DEP will have to issue a permit for, as well as this commission. They have the right to require a permit for the application of herbicide if used. So those are the two permits that are required to apply directly to the pond. As far as the landowners, it's near impossible. Like I said, the police, we can recommend and strongly suggest that they follow best management practices for yard maintenance, managing their lawns without fertilizer. It's possible to have a new lawn without fertilizer. So I would think if they're willing, as if I heard correctly, to do what it takes for the health of the pond, I think that's a potential solution. They're just going to have to change their management practices for their lawns. And again, that's just one piece of it. The drainage, primarily, I think, is the biggest issue.
Well, another thing with that, the T, is the T supposed to stay clear? Because anytime at low tide that I've gone by it, it's almost filled to the top of the T with sand, so there's no water getting out of it anyway.
I do have I was there the other day, knowing this was coming up on the agenda. It was,
I think it's on one of the pictures too.
Hands go out.
Yeah.
8 inches.
I have a memory from probably about 40 years ago, the pond was completely clear except for lily pads. We were friends of the Leventhal's who owned, I think it's 20, big White House, 20 Atlantic Street, and they would let us take our rowboat out there and go fishing. And there was nothing in the way of anything. And the Phragmites have been a problem all along, but once this tea got put in, that's when the smell started.
So I think it's a picture from the other day. It's when the pipes underwater.
Well, and it isn't every pond either, because Dodge Pond is in town, and that doesn't have any problems. So what is the difference?
They like freshwater.
What? Oh, so deep.
So deep.
So, Gary, I have a question. We had Giant Snake Beach come in, I guess 3 or 4 months ago, and he talked about, our lower pond drains into Long Island Sound, and I thought he mentioned that the deep did not want the water from the pond draining into Long Island Sound anymore.
Interesting.
Maybe I misunderstood him. I don't know. Because now it's not draining out into Long Island Sound. They keep the dam closed.
But I wonder if that's because of the water level, possibly?
I don't know.
Was that Mr. Boyer?
Yep.
All right, I can reach out to him and find out what they're doing over there with that.
Yeah, we appreciate you bringing this to our attention. I mean, it's obvious for anyone that drives around town there's an issue. So it sounds like we now have the right people involved, that we can start this open communication and
I hope
see
so.
what we can do.
Okay, thank you for your consideration and help.
So I guess as far as the association is concerned, you should just reach out to the association president and work with them. And,
All right,
certainly, we can remain in touch if you'd like.
sure.
We're happy to, be part of some of those conversations. We're happy to get
Okay,
into it.
well,
Maybe we can set up some sort of public forum if need be.
I think the more people involved, I mean, for one thing, it's so bad that most people driving by don't even know, because they're so you don't even know what's going on behind it, and that's sad. You know, so I think if people could see, it'd be even more people on board. But the more people, I think, would be the better. Yes.
Yeah, the historic photos actually show no phragmites, literally lawn 360 degrees around that.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, as long as the landowners are on board with, right, it'd be their responsibility to remove the Phragmites.
yeah, and we also heard about Dodge Pond and Gorton Pond. Those have continuous flow.
Mhm.
Dodge Pond is 80, I think, approximately 40 to 80 feet, somewhere. That's what you asked. But it's much deeper, so in terms of water temperatures, you're going to have a thermocline in there, and
Mhm.
it's going to cool it overall. So
Right.
water turnover, after the seasons, that works well. So we probably will see the numbers there. Gorton Pond, it does the north of Society Road does experience a lot of algae and has a lot of lily pads. And doesn't really seem to be Phragmites that side, but there's low flow there, so it's kind of mucky versus the south side of Society Road. There's just more flow.
And that's the pad against the road.
And that's the pad against the road.
Looks good, yeah.
But didn't you say, Gary, that the efflux pipe was to drain it in high times,
So yeah, the purpose of the pipe on Little Indian Pond was when it filled up during the storm surges or storm events, there was a way for the water to get out and not necessarily flood the road. Or we were saying the road flooded, sand on the road, flooded road, I think it's just long term. That's just going to be a maintenance issue with storm winter storm.
but it was flowing out even now with this drought this summer. That was the thing. So it was even lowering the pond.
So
That's,
the question there is, if you can talk with the town engineers, have a look at that.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe is increasing the elevation of that pipe outlet. You know, if you increase the elevation, well, you're gonna have more water to maybe that would help keep water in the pond.
I see.
Gary, I think there's a weir in it,
There's a year.
in the outlet structure. So they can raise that.
Okay.
There certainly is in our pond.
I'll have to ask Bill Shearer, deputy director, who designed it.
So would that be something that the town would do, or would it be the DEP?
Well, the town maintains the pipe, and the drainage catch basins in the road, and then as far as the pond goes, it would be the three landowners
Right.
actually doing or allowing that, any work to be done. So that we as a town would just permit that activity, if it's herbicide, if not, if it's a conservation activity, it doesn't require permitting. We would do an aerator or something like that, but not, in my opinion, necessarily require permitting. You can float it out there. It's gonna run off the solar. Yeah.
Giant Snack tried that, didn't work.
No.
So they have one that he could buy.
No, 20 years ago.
Go ahead.
Just one last question. Who do we reach out to if we have concerns going forward about anything that has to do with the pond?
I'm your town staff in the wetland agent, so I would convey any messages to the agency, the selectmen, as
Okay,
necessary.
so you would be the,
That'd be your contact.
if you have a card I can get at the end?
I do.
Any other questions to this? You guys feel pretty good right now? Moving forward, I'm sure this conversation will continue. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so moving on, pending applications, none. Old business, none. Chairman's report. I do have a couple questions, things I'd like to discuss. As we're revising our regulations, which we still need to meet with to do that, is there clarification on, so when developers are deeming an area to be open space as part of a conservation application, is there any kind of clarification on what the public access means as far as to that open space? Because it's supposed to be usable open space. So is there, I mean, like, what if it's all an overgrown area and you can't get to it? I mean, are we specifying to them, like, you need a trail to go to this space, or?
Yes and no. The planning commission usually is the one saying, okay, this is the open space, allow us public access. We typically don't say you have to put in a trail. They can.
Like, what does that mean, allow public access? Is that defined anywhere?
It means that
Just, you can't get arrested if you're trespassing?
well, you would be trespassing.
Right, right.
It becomes public domain. So meaning that the town either owns the land, in fee simple, and it's public land, or an association owns the land, and the town has a conservation easement with the right to pass and repass over it. So that gives the public the right to pass and repass, and makes it public open space. So that's typically how we handle open space at the subdivision level. And then if, for instance, like the orchards, the open space there, the applicant proposed the trail system, so the commission approved it. But not in every case do we say we want a trail.
Are there restrictions as far as, like, someone could bring an ATV back there, or?
Yes, that's all spelled out in the conservation easements.
Okay.
So whoever's holding that easement, now the town owns the land, be simple, and the land trust owns it, depends on Special Hills. That third party is required to do an annual report, submit it to the board of selectmen, saying, this is where the encroachments are, the land is open, it's nice and clean, there's no violations. But it's up to the legislative body here to either fix it or not. I mean, they're at the end of the day, that's the owner, it's the town. So, privately held open space, the association is responsible for its maintenance and such. And so if the association owns it and the town held the easement, we are supposed to go inspect that area to make sure that the easement's being upheld. And there's public access, help themselves. That's typically how it works. If the agency was reviewing a plan and wanted a trail or something, we certainly could recommend it.
I'm just curious moving forward, because it seems we see a lot of these conservation plans and they say, here's open space, but it's not really defined so far that I've seen as far as, like, how you access it, what can be used there, and guaranteeing that it's that somebody can access it moving forward.
Usually, the planning commission will look to make sure that the property, the parcel, has access to the public road or some sort of access. It's accessible, or at least there's an entrance somewhere, whether it be 25 feet or 50 feet, something to access that property. Usually with that, the neighborhood that's approved will just automatically start creating trails.
Yeah.
And access.
Okay.
Is there a map, a town map for the open space?
Yes, we have in the plan of development. There's it's a little bit outdated now, but there is an open space map that shows existing open space and proposed. The existing open space needs to be updated because we have acquired, since that map was produced, some additional parcels that we turned green. So the Conservation Commission is responsible for that map. The town does take open space. That commission technically is the agency that's responsible for maintaining that inventory and going out and checking and looking at that open space in good, decent condition. That would be the appropriate agency to usually as staff, I'm running around doing that.
All right, thanks for that clarification. I have one other question. So when people are buying properties in town, this is kind of going to, I imagine, go into our discussion of enforcement. If someone's building a new house and they have, they're abutting a watercourse or a wetland, how do they know that they would require a permit for any kind of activity? Does the realtor supposed to tell them? I mean, I'm just wondering, how are they informed?
Well, I mean, they have to do some homework themselves. The onus is on them to understand what it is that they're buying. So if they don't know that they bought a regulated piece of land, and they'll probably do something in violation and find out the hard way.
Yeah.
If then I would hope that the real estate agent discloses that information and it's put on disclosure.
Mm-hmm.
I can't guarantee it is, but I would think it's their responsibility. The attorneys that play in the transaction are responsible for telling their clients, hey, there's watercourse, we got regulated areas.
I mean, so when these properties are being built, are the application comes to you to review, right?
Yeah,
Even if
so-
they're building a house, a brand new house,
So-
that's within the 300.
An approved subdivision, and the house is within 300 feet, they have to make application for a permit.
And so at that point, they should know that it's a regulated area.
You would hope, if they purchased it as part of the subdivision approval, they knew it was within 300 feet.
Or not even a subdivision, just a prop.
Yeah, I mean, I would think you would know, if you don't know, you don't know, you'll find out one way or the other.
Yeah.
And then from there forward, apply for permits. I think the difficulty people have is with the 300 feet is, I say, they'll submit an application for a permit, I'll tell them, you need a permit because you're within 300 feet of the wetland, or the water course, and they say, where? I say, no, go down the street. We spent all weekend looking for it. You didn't walk far enough. 300 feet.
300 feet's not
So,
It's a bit.
Yeah, but, so I guess we'll continue as we go through our enforcement action potential issues.
sure.
Because more specifically, if someone's looking at water in their backyard and then they clear to the water and then they don't apply for a permit, I mean, I'm just wondering.
That
How-
should be, well, I would think that's clearing within 100 feet, 50 feet is up to the water course, so.
Yeah,
that would be
right.
a
So I'm just
regulated-
wondering, is that something that they really, they don't know about? Or
They don't know.
They may not, but
I'm just curious how we can maybe improve that so that people are more aware.
I don't read these stupid stuff all the
I,
time.
I haven't taken a ride out onto Darrow's Pond, but we've had a number of issues with ATVs and Darrow on the property, as well as some motorboats. I think the motorboat we got resolved.
Darrow Pond?
Anyhow.
It's a canoe
But-
with the motor.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because of the motor, it was a John Local motor, 25 horse or something. Anyway, because of that issue, we told the association there, hey, this is what's considered regulated activity. So they're aware that there's wetlands, they know very well of the regulations. But what I've been told is those who have the motor said, well, if you're going to come after me, you might want to go out. So there's a fair amount of clearing along the pond edge from the houses down. As I recall, we had one house that came in and I went after as a violation. Developed a planting plan to restore it, and it was strongly voted to. One individual, the commission, was strongly against the planting plan and said all they need to do is plant trees, 3 trees. And if you just leave the understory and let it grow back, it'll grow back. But leaving the understory was, yeah, they were just going to maintain the understory as being non-existent, and that's what's there today. 3 trees with no understory and a nice view of the water. I'm all about individuals having their view, but at what cost? Right? So the planting plan had shrubs instead of trees, and you would maintain the view over the shrubs, create that vegetative buffer that they so desire. Or rather, the view they desire, vegetative buffer we. So I think moving forward, that's going to be some enforcement along that pond, I think, at some level. I don't know what's going to look look like. But being all the activities that are going on out on that property, oh, what the heck?
That's why you're here.
Um,
No, I'm just hoping, I mean, we all know full well, there's some, when you buy a property, you may not know all the laws and regulations. Is there a way we can put a postcard together and, hey, part of your move and welcome package, by the way, you have regulated property and come see us and we can help you with your wetlands needs. Or something to help, because I feel like
Certainly.
it's getting
I think
out of control.
there's definitely an opportunity, I think, to work with the local real estate agencies and create more public awareness, and maybe even a little social media outreach could be helpful.
Sounds like a Michelle task too. Maybe we can work that into the POCD meetings.
Probably.
Yeah.
The POCD approach.
Yeah.
Type thing.
Yeah. I don't know. Just a few improvements. I think that maybe we could try to look into.
So, just to throw this out here, I am a realtor, and the disclosures come from the person selling the property. They are the ones that have to fill out the disclosures. It's on the building if there is a house, and there's also some questions concerning are there easements and things like that on the disclosures.
Mm-hmm.
That comes from the owner. Like the realtor is not allowed to have any input on that. So
Okay.
you might get into something a little tricky there because that has to come from the owner, the person selling.
As we know, you want to sell your home, you can't necessarily point out
Yeah.
the
Right.
law.
Right.
Contractors.
You can't clear.
Obviously,
Yeah.
I would think with regulated areas and easements, those are pretty big encumbrances
Mhm.
on a piece of land that affect its value.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there it's kind of evident, but in some cases, I would agree, yeah, they never disclose, particularly with this 300 foot up in review. They might not even be thinking, yeah, that wetland, who knows, it's 500 feet plus or minus, I don't know. So when you look at it from that perspective, you're not going to disclose that you're within regulated. They'll say no. Because I'd rather not know and use ignorance as
Mm-hmm.
my way out.
To your point, we're not here to make people angry. And if we can do our jobs in such a way where we don't surprise people with the rules, that's desirable.
Mm-hmm.
That has a lot in common with what we do during the day, following rules and trying to get people to do things without making them mad. If there's a way to be proactive about informing folks that are in regulated zones, that there's resources available to answer their questions, I wonder if we could, someone said a postcard?
That's what I said. Yeah.
A postcard with a QR code on the back that links to the regulations and target everyone that's within a certain area or areas, property owners, to receive those postcards. Maybe it's a video of you saying, hey, I don't want to, here's some
You don't
things you
want
need
to
to
see
know.
me.
Well, I didn't mean...
No, I mean
Is
him.
that
You don't want him on your property. Yes, Ann?
I was going to say, like Joe Burgaud does do videos for, about recycling and garbage that, put up on, I don't know if it's Facebook or Instagram, or on the website, I think it is actually the town website.
Mhm.
Just kind of telling people, and I watch them, it's like, this is what you recycle, this is what you don't. This is, you need to know garbage is being picked up 7 o'clock in the morning and not at 8 o'clock. Like, you have to have everything out there.
Mm.
I think they're helpful for people. I don't think people know. The other issue I was going to say is that, the upland review area was, 100 feet for many years. So now all of a sudden it's changed to 300 feet. So when people are filling these forms out, it's probably either they don't know or they don't know what 300 feet is, because 300 feet is a very long distance.
Yeah.
And that might even go on to somebody else's property.
Right.
So, I think it's kind of like a variety of issues that impact it. I don't think it's necessarily that sometimes the owner's trying to hide something. I think it's just
Right. And I'm not concerned if someone, 295 feet, putting in a shed or something. But it's those people that really do have direct impact on wetlands and water courses, and it's obvious, and they just maybe aren't aware or whatnot. How do we inform them in a way that hey, use us as a resource, make sure you're getting your permits, because I think a lot of people just don't know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think it would be helpful if it was on the application too. I don't see it at all, where it says either 100 or 300 feet.
So we should put a distance on there or require on the application?
Well,
The application's for the work. And they're in the wetlands, that they're in the wetlands area, that's why they're doing it.
I guess.
Yeah, we've already got them. They don't, it's redundant, I think.
Yeah, okay.
So, just to follow up, there isn't a specific line on a property disclosure that you do for real estate, but I said the owner has to disclose. The specific question, is the property in a flood hazard area or in an inland wetlands area? They specifically have, stated right there. But if they don't answer that, properly, then
Right. So with the increase in area, I would think that's where someone definitely would know if they're certain they're within
yeah.
that, they may say no, and they are. Which, I guess, to keep the conversation going, so I had a prospective applicant come in and met with, I reached out to Kristen, we never finished our conversation, I got in touch with you on this. So,
Yes.
but here's an example of, just got these two aerials. So you can see like an example of a proposed development site for some self-storage.
Cool.
They marked the 100-foot and the 300-foot area on there. So the applicant in this case said, hey, we propose this in the 300, over the 100-foot upland review area, would you as an administrator, as the agent, issue the permit administratively? Being that I wouldn't have looked at it prior. If I would have said no permit required, most likely, provided they had proper ES controls on the plan or something like that. The site's relatively flat. But in this case, there's a large portion of the development within the 300-foot upland review area, and with the regs changing, so the question is, at what level of disturbance, or what's the threshold in which these applications should be kicked to the commission versus the agent issuing those permits?
Well, and I think a lot of our discussion of going to 300 feet, this is completely clear cutting an impervious surface, a large area, and it is within the 300 foot. So I think, yeah, they left a 100-foot buffer, which is great. Is there going to be an impact? Most likely not, but I think that this kind of thing is something that we need to look at. I mean, it's a huge area that's clear cut.
So as we revise those regs, and that's where by breaking the permits into significant, intermediate, and minor, gave a little more clarity to that issue. Saying, okay, the agent is clearly saying these permits, and we want to see everything else, that meets this threshold. So that's, I think, maybe resolved if we modify things in that fashion. Obviously, we can maybe be more explicit, say, identify a certain volume or area of disturbance that's automatically. Say, anything over this has to go to the commission.
Yeah.
But that's a good example of the issue that's going to come raise its ugly head eventually. And so before, and a good example is the normal gas station. Here I issued a permit for 13,000 square feet of disturbance within 280 feet of the stream. The agency was not thrilled with that as a whole. So while I have the authority to do that under the regulations, the commission would prefer to see it. Now, the commission can uphold, well, an enforcement action, So unless there's an enforcement action taken, you would be upholding, overturning, or affirming this decision. So I think I got, there's a letter from attorneys in Norfolk on that issue. So with that, so that doesn't happen again. We, I think bringing clarity to that,
Yeah.
revising the regs to address it.
I agree. I mean, I don't want to speak on behalf of everybody, but do we agree that this would be something that we would be interested in seeing?
Yes.
Right? I mean,
Which
especially
is-
since it's 4 Mile River where it is polluted.
So in that example, yeah, that's going to come forward, I think, in some different fashion, but the process.
Yeah. we can discuss that.
That's helpful for me to advise the applicant. So you're gonna, based on the areas within the
Mm-hmm.
But if I put a shed 200 feet from a lake, I don't have to worry about going to the commission?
Yes, you do.
I do.
Well, it's up
You
to
still
Gary.
need a permit.
Yeah, you
Still need a permit, but will I go to the commission?
But
It's up to
that's,
Gary.
Depends on.
yeah, we're working on the regulations to revise them to be more specific as far as what needs to come to us and what doesn't.
Mhm.
Most likely that would be something administratively approved by Gary.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Currently, I mean, in terms of subdivisions, when they're approved, they usually, if there's wetlands on them, they have to come before this agency for
Yep.
review. If the agency ends up issuing a permit for the subdivision, typically every other lot, well, we have to issue permits for the construction of homes. Those are typically administrative permits. They've already had their overview for wetlands, but the agency can, and I've seen the other agencies do this, I want to see every lot. And so every lot's coming in back in front of the agency for review. It can be done. I think it's cumbersome and probably unnecessary, but it is what it is. The agency has that discretion and can exercise it. So it's up to the board how they want to proceed with that. But I would, think sheds, decks, pools, most of those things, gazebos, air conditioning units, all of these things, ground-mounted solar, which, in my opinion, is probably one of the worst uses of solar, ground mounting it around the roof if you can't get existing structure. But, those things I would typically approve because they're low impact disturbance, you're not disturbing the area. Usually, the zoning code also has requirements for impervious area, maximum coverage on a lot. So there could be a play there that we work with zoning and say maybe your impervious areas are too high. You're allowing for a significant amount of coverage. So so that's something to look at. I don't know. I've yet to know. There's like a handful of lots in town that actually reach their lot coverage. So it's not that many, but it can happen. And as we know, as the increase of impervious surface increases, beyond 10% within the watershed, we see a direct correlation to water quality degradation. So,
Are there commercially viable pervious or permeable surfaces that you can drive on?
yeah,
There's
real
pavers.
pavers,
Sure.
Yeah.
paving systems that interlock, you put a stone between
Go to
them.
McCook's, by a hole in the wall,
So if there's
But
a whole parking lot.
Understood. I was looking at putting some of them in my driveway, and they're a little expensive. But so, are there any that are on par with asphalt?
There's pervious asphalt, but you got to vacuum it. It doesn't work well with the winters that we have. And salt. If you're using salt, it's not too bad. If you're using sand, you got to vacuum and clogs it. There's pervious concrete. Hole in the wall is a good place to go to see what happens to this pervious stuff when it's not maintained. It's been installed for about 10 years now. So 10 years of no maintenance. You can go out and pour a bottle of water on the parking spots and you can see which work best after 10 years of zero maintenance. They've got cellulose products for plastic grids, geogrid and long. You fill in the stone. There's a subsurface material that's usually some sort of sand or gravel that support that frames well. There's stuff that we put in tree wells on Main Street. That's a recycled rubber aggregate. It's pervious. It's an epoxy. It will over time break up UV rays. So we're actually in the process of looking to replace tree wells.
The ones that you just put in?
Just put in with the streetscape improvements that were
Okay.
about 10 years ago. So they're about 10 years old, and they haven't been maintained. There's, as you can see, there's grass, weeds growing out from them. There's brick lights along this, and sand and clog. So the county engineers think that different medium might be better. Again, I think it, as far as cost of doing business, but just mulch works well. Yes, I know it floats. Like we go down the street. It might be just part of the maintenance. It might be the cheapest and most natural way to manage the tree wells.
But didn't they just put new ones in with native trees?
That was in one of the neighborhoods.
So like across from Bank of America? Were those new ones?
On Pennsylvania, there's new street trees that were installed,
Right.
more recent than Main Street, yes.
Oh, okay. And
I don't-
how are those doing?
Those use grates
Right.
on top. That's another, that's something you don't have to replace the medium, it's always pervious. So that might be the real solution. Although maybe more aesthetic, but,
But didn't we lose the grant because they weren't all done or something? I thought I read, no?
I'm not aware.
Oh.
Lost the grant. I'm not planting trees.
Hmm.
I know I have, we have the tree nursery, which is kind of a failed project. We had 100 trees and there are 10 or 11. And out of that, those 10, because they were bare root stock, if they're not taken out of the ground now, they're just going to take over the trench that they're in, just a row of trees. The infrastructure's there, though. You find it on the tree nursery. That's, I think, what was lacking is maybe.
Yeah, so we talk to Pollinator Pathways.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe create literally, that solves. She will put her
She probably will.
plantings.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay, solved. So finally, it's kind of been a running joke, but one of the former celebrities said, "Hey, unless we manage it, another American Beautiful could another vote in favor of it." So you get it's okay. So before I write the next American Beautiful grant, I wanted to figure out what we can do to have land. I think there's a solution there. It's a good plan. Using so in terms of enforcement, moving on, I have a list of other pieces of permits I've issued.
Oh, thank you.
There's 396 Boston Post Road. I have to follow up on, I apologize, I did not follow up with that. Communicated he didn't own the land, but I still see the ice cream truck there. But it looks like the landscaping activities have stopped, which is a good thing. And the vegetation has started to regenerate. So while there's stabilization in there, I do want to just make contact with the homeowner, wherever they are, landowner, and let them know that there's regulated areas. That activity was regulated and required from and if they're going to do anything beyond what they've done, an additional permit. I also, if my travels, looks like Monaco Ford is doing some site work to the rear of the parcel, so you have to go by slow and take a look. But it looks like they brought in material and cleared down to the, guessing the stream, the brook. Is it row of trees? It looks like they maintained a small buffer, but it's all open. So I'm hoping with this rain, there's a silt fence, and yeah.
Well, there's a line of boats back there, isn't there?
That's Di Bartolo has the boats, but
The boats look like they're right on the line.
Yeah, I saw a picture of that actually.
And when you have a boat, a lot of times you have to power wash it, and you can change the oil before you winterize it.
right.
So, there's things to look out there.
So I'll be going out there tomorrow to take a look at it. Unfortunate situation because it's proximity to the stream there and there's no EMS controls in place. I have not seen the site plan for it, so I'm not sure what they're doing. It's a significant, it looked like a significant land disturbance. The other matter was up on Grassy Hill. I indicated I would go out and measure the distance from the wetland to the test pits, the area that was cleared. As Mr. Rush indicated, it is close. It's like 50 feet, not even. It's 25 to 10. That's a cleared area. Vegetative buffer is about 5 feet between the place I was standing and where Albie was on the other side. So that said, I can reach out to the landowner, but the land is already transferred. So what happened there is the landowner did a lot line revision, created a 2-acre lot to the west. The remaining land was going to go off to the land trust and be combined with, I think, the land to the north, which was 301 acres. Ultimately, there were some issues with the application of doing that because of signatures. So they went back to the original application, which takes the remaining, I think it was 5 3.2 acres or something, and it's actually merging it with the Walker's parcel. So now they own all of that. They're acquiring the violation. So.
Because wasn't there an issue that they posted a property for sale without it being approved as?
Yeah, I got correspondence today. There's a 12-acre piece up on the corner of Holmes Road and Rossi Hill that has been advertised for sale. I received correspondence today from Attorney Gary, an explanation as to why that didn't constitute a subdivision. Apparently it was a conservation split. So under Connecticut law, yes, you can divide land for purposes of conservation. But that means that there's an easement. That means that there's some sort of protection on that piece.
Yeah.
So my question there is, who wants to buy just 12 acres of open space?
Yeah.
And it's already open.
Interesting.
Unless you know, if you're already restricted as to what you can do based on an easement, I suspect they would be, because my understanding of what was presented to the DEP is DEP contributed funds to the acquisition of that land, included this area. So the easement, in my opinion, would have included that. So I'll read through that material, find out what's going on there. But yes, that's so.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly what they're doing, because otherwise, in my opinion, that would constitute something like create a building lot out of it. It would have been the fourth lot, or this other 2.2 acre that's being conveyed, had that transferred to the land trust, that would have been an additional lot, unless it triggered the subdivision requirement. That's where he said, well, we won't give it to the land trust then.
So what about the area next to the cemetery off of Society Road? They logged it and then they threw all the wood chips there. It was an area which was wet, and it was wet in front of it this afternoon. I happened to notice because of all the rain. But there's so much wood chips there now. It's, you know, it's kind of
I believe the wetlands are actually where that entrance is. There's the wetlands
right
over to the west. I think the wood chips are keeping that area stabilized and not allowing any of that material to wash into the wetland.
Yeah.
Wood chips act as a natural stabilizer. They also filter water and remove nitrogen from the water as a filter process that we know. So they make a good buffer.
But don't you think a lot of that area, if the soil scientists came in, would find wetland soil? If he went through the wood chips?
Possibly. I mean, I can go out there and put an auger down and see what kind of soils I pull up. I can identify enough to determine that. My understanding from what was submitted, again, without looking back at the plan, I have to see where those wetlands are exactly. We did permit one crossing with that forestry operation. That said, of all the, that's one of the few forestry operations that we've gone through.
Yeah.
So he's been very neat, very clean, and quiet. But otherwise, yeah, I can take a look and follow up with you.
Getting back to Grassy Hill, however, as I understand it, we're waiting to give whoever is the new owner, who the land has been transferred to, notice of violation so that they can fix the condition that's...
Well, I'm going to tell them, say, hey, look, you're buying this violation. I've already spoken to them once.
Yeah.
They were, I couldn't understand this, but their discussion with other staff, it sounded like they weren't sure what they bought, but it was 5 acres for 2. And my conversation was confirming that you only bought the 2 because the map that was approved, a 2-acre lot here, the remaining goes to the Walkers. And that kind of clarified for them exactly what they bought. They knew it the real estate thing, I guess. I don't know how to explain that, but they want to build a house. So I said, well, I'm here. I can guide you through the process. The wetland permits, the lot is within 300 feet of the wetland, so not closer. You're surrounded in that parcel.
And for all the clearing, whoever, so they're absorbing that violation, they'd have to come to us.
If I write, and of course, I send them a letter or cease and desist order, they have to come to court. So what I think the best way is to get more bees with honey is to have a conversation with them and say, look, this is what you purchased. So we can either restore some of this understory, or the walkers are now acquiring it. I don't know what they're purchasing necessarily or how getting that land. But based on the map that I approved, it's supposed to get transferred to the Walkers. With that, they'll have roughly 5 acres themselves. What they do with it, I don't know. I don't think they have any intentions of doing anything. I haven't spoken to the Walkers, so I don't know what their intention to do with that land is. But I can figure out a way to reach out to them. Say, hey, just so you know, there's some wetlands over here. I think if they do nothing with that land, it will be generous. The question is, do we need them to plant anything? So put some plantings in without having to go through the safety process.
Right.
What I am happy about is the tree canopy is still up, so we still have shade canopy over.
Do they know that they're not supposed to cut it down?
I would have to let the Walkers know that. I don't know that they're kind of going back to what they're acquiring. They realize that it's within a regulated area.
I just wanted to know if we're waiting for them to figure out that they have a problem to address the problem, and from now until then, is there anything that we can do in the intermediary to fix the condition, or at least stabilize it?
I think that the land is relatively stable now. I don't think we have any massive problem out there.
Okay.
Well, the understory was cleared. There's a fair amount of called slash material that was the land.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that provides kind of like a blanket that provides that ES. I'll go out there tomorrow after all this rain. I can't, maybe I see Ms. Rush is in the audience, so maybe she can comment that she lives up there. She eyes on if that's okay with the commission. If that's okay with you.
To do what?
Comment on the condition up there. I was not up there today. I know there's a significant amount of rain, and here I'm saying that there's some slash on the ground creating a blanket and ENS control, but that was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So the current conditions, I don't know if you can speak.
Sure, I'd be happy to comment about what I've observed. So I walked the Grassy Hill Road along the section that borders the 5 acres this afternoon and this morning because it was raining. There are no erosion control fences either on the west side, like my house's side of the 5 acre parcel, or the eastern side, which is next to the Walker's side. You know, there is some very, very small regenerative growth on both sides, but there is nothing significant. And I was obviously significantly concerned because both of those parcels have a gradient that dumps direct. So there's a Y-shaped stream, and both of those parcels are sloped into the streams. And obviously we had some quite heavy rain in the last 36 hours. So I didn't actually measure the water myself. I did take pictures, not, you know, I can't measure still content with just a photograph, but I was concerned about that. You referenced the clearing being near the stream. So there was clearing near the stream on both sides of that 5 acre parcel. I'm not sure if you and Allie measured on both sides or just one.
To the
like on the Walker side
on
or
the Walker side is where we.
Yeah. So there was also clearing. By my measurement, I think it was like 56 feet on the brush by side of that 5 acre parcel as well. And that was the work that was done in July that I spoke in public delegations about. My understanding from the Walkers is that they are not. I don't want to speak on their behalf, but it was not my understanding that they are aware that they may be inheriting some violations. But I believe they are having conversations tomorrow with 2 developers about this acquisition. So I think if we want to make them aware of anything, time is of the essence. That has been proceeding slowly for a while, and things, by their impression, keep shifting, and they are also not quite sure what they are getting or how or when or what. But I don't. It is not my understanding that they are aware. I believe they've done some like title searches to make sure there were no liens on the property, but I don't think they were aware that there might be wetlands violations that they would be inheriting with that 3 acre acquisition. And then, yeah, so I think that's sort of the update about what I've observed along the Grassy Hill parcel. Again, a sold sign has appeared on this small 2 acre lot that's immediately adjacent to my house, when I wasn't aware that it had actually been approved So it had been advertised since I spoke, I believe in June, with a road sign, and I didn't think it had gone through planning and zoning yet at that point. I understand it had been approved for septic, but I wasn't aware that it had gone through the other approvals necessary to be sold as a housing lot.
Please.
Yeah. So in terms of the housing, they applied for a lot line revision to create the 2-acre lot. They had originally gotten a septic approved for the 5-acre piece on the west side, which would be the 2-acre lot. So with the approval of that septic, the lot was buildable. Then they just moved the lot line. We only approved that, I think, a couple of weeks ago. So I think before sales sign went up, they were advertising 5 acres, and then it changed to 2 acres. And the other one was the walkers. So they haven't created any additional building lots other than what's there, but they had to make it buildable by demonstrating that they could fit septic compliant. So they were able to do that. As far as inland wetland permitting, there'll be permits for all of the
So could you just identify yourself for the record, your
Absolutely.
name and address for the secretary?
Absolutely. Lindsay Rush, RUSH, and my address is 15 Grassy Hill Road at East Lyme. Thank you.
Has there been any activity there since you last spoke?
Not significant activity. The most dramatic clearing was just prior to my speaking in public delegations at the beginning of June. The property has pretty much sat untouched, again, without any erosion controls on either side of the property, and it dumps into 2 stream beds. Other than that, there hasn't been a whole lot of activity other than the for sale sign they set out. And I do believe at one point, and I have screen captures, they listed both the 5-acre parcel and a 2-acre parcel online simultaneously for the same plot of land.
So I had to contact the real estate agent, tell them that they couldn't do that, otherwise they're subject to a $200 fine.
Per day.
Trying to sell a lot per day. That said, that fine would be issued by the courts, not the town. So the town would then have to pursue the subdivision and go down that road. With that, the real estate agent removed the one listing and left the other until such time that they could put the 2-acre lot up and change the listing. Although I don't know if they have buyer in line, but so I had the similar conversation regarding the 12-acre piece in the corner, saying it was a subdivision lot, that you get your sign out there. But now I have an explanation from the attorney. I'm going to read through and see what they're stating is fact versus, is it not, why is it not a subdivision? And why
Yeah, this is very confusing. Do you know how many houses or what they're proposing?
No, it's just a 12-acre piece. Like it's a single
Minus the
building lot.
5 minus the 2, or is that?
No, the 5-acre piece was a 5-acre piece that looked like an M that surrounded, I think 13?
15 and 13.
Grassy Hill. It revised the lot line, merged 3 acres with the Walker's piece, and created a 2-acre lot independent of the 5 acres.
Okay.
Because it all merges into a lot. Then up on the corner of Holmes Road and Upper Walnut Hill, they were advertising a 12-acre piece. There's another 5-acre piece along Holmes Road that has frontage, it's still owned by Duval Properties. When Duval Properties conveyed the 300 acres to the land trust, they retained that 12 acres. But I believe the conveyance of the 300 acres included the 12-acre piece on the corner of Holmes Road and Grassy Hill. Didn't include the 5-acre piece. Duval conveyed that to English Harbor Associates. And English Harbor Associates did the lot line revision to create just the 1 2-acre lot versus 1 5-acre lot. Helpful, explain. So the lot line, so in terms of what the town approvals, lot line revisions, my office, I can do those administratively. Subdivision has to go to the commissioner. And the definition of a subdivision is a division of land into 3 lots or more. It's a little more elaborate than that, but a significantly changed map that's previously filed in the land record that constitutes subdivision. So in this case, I approved a lot line revision along with the health department. That created a 2-acre piece. Actually, proved that it's 5 acres. Either way, the house was in the same location. That said, they were trying to get, I think, another house on those 5 acres, but now that's going to be merged with the Walker's piece. And I think, the Walkers, in my opinion, it sounds like if they're looking to build a house, they're going to need to apply for a re-subdivision to do that. Which would, as we know, if there's wetlands on the property, it has to come before this commission as well as the planning commission for a re-subdivision of the house. Now, is there enough land area there to do that? Possibly. I would think with merging with it, they'll have a total land area. They should be able to put enough acres together. Although it's zoned R80, so I look at that. It's a 2-acre zone, so it's surrounded by SU, which is open space.
Okay.
Is this an appropriate time to ask a question since we're talking about this parcel, or?
Yeah, sure.
So I understand from the zoning regulations that under the conservation design development, it is we're required to follow those provisions on the subdivision of any parcel of 10 acres or more. And so I know there have been a couple revisions of this property from an 80-acre parcel as it stood up until earlier this year, and now it's a 5-acre M-shaped parcel that's been carved out, and now it's a 2-acre parcel that's being carved out. And I was wondering when that 10-acre designation is met, because in theory someone could subdivide, all they wanted to get it smaller than 10 acres, so you wouldn't have to kick in those regulations.
So it's a lengthy explanation, but initially there were 3 parcels of land. There was one parcel that was landlocked. Duval Partners purchased the land, and they revised it and did lot line revision there. Basically said, hey, this 3rd parcel, we're going to shove up and make it the 12 acres. What did I say 5? I think it's 12 acres on Holmes Road. Doesn't abut any other roads. This is to the east on Holmes Road. So that you had that 12-acre piece, you had the larger, what became roughly 300 acres, and then you had a 5-acre piece, the M piece. So Duval Partners conveyed 300 acres to the land trust for purposes of conservation. Don't need subdivision approval to do that. And by doing that, it created these weird configured lots. Then they convey the remaining land to another owner, who is then subsequently said, hey, we want to convey 12 acres on the corner of Holmes Road and Upper Walnut to somebody, and the 5 acres we want to convey to somebody. In the interim, I think they said, hey, we can take the 5 acres, split it in half, and get 2 lots instead of just 1. What a great idea. Let's try that. I don't think they were successful in doing that. My guess is the test pits or something was awry, mainly probably because it was so close to the wetlands. But again, looking at the land, the topography, I was like, well, it should be. There was a rise to it a lot, and I thought maybe up on the hill they would find some suitable soils, possibly. So I'm just surprised that the landowner, English Harbor Associates, didn't move forward with any further division of land, other than they maybe wanted to avoid a public hearing and having to go through the process of re-subdivision. That would be my guess. So they take what they can get, which is just 2 acres, and a 5-acre piece and sell it off. I don't know all the rationale that they have for doing what they did, but that's how they did it.
So when the 10-acre being subdivided kicks in, so that has like some very specific requirements for how close you're allowed to build to a water course. So it says you're not allowed to build within 100 feet of a water course if this conservation design development is triggered, if it's a subdivision of more than 10 acres. And so I guess I'm wondering, because this had originally been part of a much larger parcel that was significantly greater than 10 acres, do those regulations for the conservation design development now apply to this 2-acre parcel? Because having a 100-foot setback from a water course is not just like not within the review zone, but it actually specifically says building setback to wetlands water courses 100 feet, and it, I think it also increases the perimeter of where they can build to 40 feet along the conservation design development, and it has I think a larger side yard setback, all of which would significantly impact this now very tall and narrow 2-acre lot that is bordered on 2 sides essentially by a stream. And so that's, yeah, so I'm curious about when that subdividing 10 acres kicks in, because this 2 acres is certainly carved out of a much larger than 10-acre parcel. So just curious about that angle of it.
I think that's going to require a little more legal explanation and rationale from the town attorney. Because I would have to say, hey, did the town mess up here? Did we issue a permit or approve something that we shouldn't have? My opinion is that we didn't. I can't control the landowner conveying 300 acres for purposes of open space. If that leaves him land that's now potentially suitable for development, without having to go through the subdivision process, he still had to come through a process in the town to get it buildable, at least through zoning and wetlands. I had to look at it, review it, make sure it was a lot line revision, it was not a subdivision, and that they could fit septic on it, and then the health department was satisfied. Does the CDD regs apply to that? I have to ask the legal counsel. My initial thoughts are it doesn't, but I can try to find a rationale as to why.
Yeah, it's a good point, because piecemealing stuff, yeah,
I think it's just, I think it is what it is, and the way they went about it is legal, unfortunately. But I think it's a bit of a loophole in the system. I can continue.
What else do you have on enforcement? Anything else?
That was
Did you look at the property on not Frog Hollow, Tanglewood? Someone cleared all the way to the water. Yeah. You and Jenna messaged you guys. She gave you a potential address. Yeah, I mean, not to be a bad neighbor, but you can't tell from the road. I mean, they did significant work clearing, and it looks like they installed. Yeah.
Yeah. Bill Mulholland is pursuing that. That was over 300 feet from the street. This was the same lot.
No, this is directly on the upper lake there.
Oh no.
And they cleared completely to the lake, and it looks like installed a large beach. There's lots of clearing. There's patios. There's stairs. There's significant clearing and work done. No, this is on Tanglewood. Wait, I wrote down somewhere. Overbrook. It's on Overbrook, and it's a brand new house with significant work done. And there's a silt fence there that you can see from the road. What's beyond that silt fence, I'm not sure if it's gravel or sand, but there's been a lot of work there. A lot.
So what's the body of water? Is it
So it's part of 4 Mile River, and it opens up into an upper lake, and it's directly on that. I mean, it looks beautiful, but there's a lot of. I would like, it's steep right there, and there's.
Okay. No problem.
Yeah, we could just.
They need permits.
They need permits. I'll tell you.
That being said, Ali Christensen kind of finished up her internship with us. Is now back in school. But she left me with this gentleman, Sam Geary. I guess he's a UConn grad and with a degree in ecology. Introduced me to him. He's graduated High here, went to school with Ally. So he currently graduated this past May, looking for work, so we're bringing him on as help. So it looks like we can get him for something about 30 weeks, basically.
Oh, good.
So that'll be helpful. That said, Ally is still on board, working remotely, but at much lesser amount.
Yeah.
Maybe an hour, a couple hours a week. I'm hoping to have her just assist with some regulation review and things like that. Keep things moving forward. So as we progress with that, so tax Kermit, along with Sam in the office, on a daily basis, about 20 hours a week. Yeah, we can hopefully make more progress. With his background, I think that he's more interested in learning about the wetlands and that versus say transportation planning and those things that go on there. So that seems to be a good fit for wetlands, and I've already introduced him today, so what he's doing, running around, taking pictures, enforcement process. So I'm looking forward to having him.
Great.
Now I leave. Yeah, so that's good news. Hopefully, the budget, just keep that in mind, moving forward. Usually in December, we want to wrap that up. So I'm going to try to put this on the budget on the next agenda for discussion. And then hopefully that's October, by November, we can have something that she's happy with. Then I can present that to Kevin in December and see where it goes from there. But I think going forward, I'm certainly going to ask for a full-time salary versus part-time. We'll see what happens. Hopefully we'll support it.
I think you need somebody, because, like I mentioned to you before, where's the follow-up in anything? There's just not the
Correct.
people to actually do it.
Correct.
So you need,
Kind of the limiting factor there.
Yeah.
Just some bodies to do,
Mhm.
do all the work. Yeah, so hopefully with Sam on board, we'll get some of it done. And some more follow-up. That's all I have.
Can we just make sure that Jen, when she sends out her emails, that she makes sure that people reply, so we know that we're going to have quorum?
Yeah, so actually getting onto that subject as well, I have a list of everybody's phone numbers. I just want everyone, not everybody, so if you could check before you leave, for the sole purpose of confirming site walks, I want to start a group text. We can't text anything except I'm going, I'm not, I'll be there, where are you? And that's it, so that we can just have a better organization with site walks, because right now we don't know who's going and where they are and all that. So if you want to participate in this, please let me know.
So how does this work out if we end up getting, the lawyers decide they want all of our stuff? Is that going to be part of it?
Yes.
It would be, yes.
Okay.
Those specific texts would be FOI.
Yeah, and we can't discuss anything about the site walk or anything. It's just, I'm at town hall, everyone here that's coming, yes, no, that's it. Okay. You're
so
good.
do we have to retain those, if it's, that's all we're saying on
I
them?
don't think your number's on there.
Not yet.
I mean, they usually just want the stuff that's substantive, related to certain issues. I mean, sometimes they want everything, but, if you're saying
Yeah,
you
some
have
of
a
the places
sidewalk,
not.
I mean, that's setting up an appointment, it's setting up, you know what I mean, like a meeting.
Well, I'm just asking because I like to delete and clear things out, so
That shouldn't be.
can I delete it?
You can, I mean, your device has to have, how long has so much memory, We're supposed to keep our emails, but again, our server only has so much capacity to hold so many emails for every town employee, and so you have to delete. So at some point, you're archiving stuff, and eventually it's like so old.
Yeah, I set up a totally separate email for this, just in case.
I can try to get clarification. I can ask Kevin on FOI, what we're really supposed to be doing with text.
Usually if you get a request though for, production or, FOI request, they usually put down, because we had one of the board of selectmen, anything related to this
certain application or
particular,
something.
event, whatever.
So if it was an
Public
appeal-
hearing, something like that. Whether you, are going to attend hearing, is pretty irrelevant, you know what I mean? Because they can figure out who went and then, you know. So it's really anything substantive. So that's why, like, if you email or text, it should just be, you know, mundane, like housekeeping matters. Nothing of any substance ever.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm just, can't say where, but somebody that I know of, I think just to be a pain in the rear end, has done a FOI request of 10 years of everything. Everything.
10 years?
Wow.
For what?
Yeah. I can't say, I can't. But
Paid for it.
somebody, yes, requested 10 years of all information.
Wow.
It's been-
Well, hopefully that doesn't sound like
Legally,
this.
it's only
No, it's not,
legally
not
it's
you
only
guys,
7
but
years. You can-
I was like,
yeah, that's
Seven,
why I,
seven is what you quit, that's it, after that, get rid of it.
yeah,
Now, like,
that's for taxes,
Again,
right?
you're
Right.
doing what you have.
Yeah,
You don't have it, you
Yeah.
deleted it.
yeah.
like most doctors, I think they keep records 7 years. Lawyers will keep them 7 years unless it's like real estate or like a criminal we have to keep. But other than that, we destroy stuff because it's
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
the
paper,
IRS
too
is
much.
7 years too.
Yeah, I think so.
We have records retention here with building permits and permits as in general, so wetland permits that were issued, 20 years ago, we've since gotten rid of. So no deed for us, just in case they ever come back. Part of that though is that what I have done is gone through those files and pulled out the site plans. So with the intent of scan them, preserve the site plan because it has a delineated wetland, which someday I hope to incorporate into our GIS map and actually have maybe a symbology for delineated wetlands versus the 73 kind of 50-foot, 1,000-foot view, but we can kind of use the two and slowly get a better tool. That's really where I'd like to go. Maybe with the regulations, we can require digital submission of information, PDFs, all we need. It's not required now, but that would make digitizing plans a lot of fun. GIS system. So I will note to Jen to just maybe send a follow-up email, I guess, as far as attendance goes. Usually, I guess if we don't hear by Friday on this regarding the sidewalk, then I do get email on my phone, so I can check Saturday morning.
Well, that's why, yeah, I'll start just everyone's phone numbers and just start it so that if there's any questions when you get to the site walk, there's that option you can see is, are we missing
Little
anybody?
lost or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you know where the site is? I'm meeting you there.
You just said, are you coming? And
Yeah.
everybody said yes, no, yes, no.
Then we're good, yeah. Something simple, yeah. Okay.
There you go.
On that note, anybody want to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn at 9:05.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Bye.
All right, thank you.
Sure.